Memiliki 2 klaster keilmuan, program studi berbasis kependidikan dan non-kependidikan, UNESA senantiasa meningkatkan kualitas penyelenggaraan pendidikan, memupuk tradisi ilmiah dalam penelitian, menggelorakan semangat pengabdian pada masyarakat, berjejaring berkolaborasi dengan pemangku kepentingan, serta mewujudkan pelayanan yang prima, transparan, dan akuntabel.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat datang di Universitas Negeri Surabaya. Di usia ke-56 tahun ini, kami dengan bangganya mengajak Anda untuk lebih dekat dan mengenal tentang UNESA. Kami terus berkomitmen tidak hanya menyelenggarakan pendidikan terbaik bagi tenaga pendidik profesional masa depan, juga sangat berfokus untuk menciptakan lulusan yang berkarakter, tangguh, kreatif, inovatif, dan mampu berkolaborasi pada siapapun, berbudaya yang humanis dengan spesifikasi yang unggul dalam hal seni, olahraga, dan pendidikan disabilitas yang komprehensif.
Pendidikan tak hanya menjadi intisari keberadaan, tetapi juga menjadi nafas perjuangan. UNESA menjadi salah satu kampus penyelenggara program pendidikan profesi guru yang menghasilkan tenaga pendidik profesional. UNESA terus menyelenggarakan berbagai program pemberdayaan sebagai stimulus untuk mengembangkan sumber daya dosen dan mahasiswa. Pengembangan riset serta produk-produk inovatif menjadi solusi atas permasalahan yang ada pada masyarakat. UNESA, rumah para juara. Ekosistem yang mendukung dalam mencetak sumber daya manusia berkualitas, kompetitif, dan berwawasan global sehingga mampu bersaing di tingkat nasional maupun internasional. Kolaborasi adalah kunci kemajuan dalam upaya menjadi kampus berdaya saing global. UNESA berkolaborasi dengan sejumlah institusi berskala internasional, baik di bidang industri, pemerintahan, maupun institusi pendidikan. Naik kelas dengan kelengkapan fasilitas. Sebagai wadah dalam mengembangkan minat, bakat, serta potensi mahasiswa, UNESA juga terus mengembangkan sarana dan prasarana yang mampu menunjang kegiatan akademik maupun non-akademik. Gor Futsal Internasional, Asrama Kontainer, Sport Center, Pusat Bahasa, Geraha UNESA, Student Activity Center, Jogging Track, Lapangan Berkuda, Gor Basket Internasional, Unit Kegiatan Mahasiswa, Seni, pengembangan karakter dan kepribadian, olahraga, aktivitas outdoor,
UNESA, 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 UNESA,
UNESA,
UNESA, satu langkah di depan.
Dari kota terbaik di Indonesia, kota dengan catatan sejarah perjuangan dan nuansa kepahlawanan. Selamat datang di Universitas Negeri Surabaya. Lahir tahun 1964 sebagai Institut Keguruan Ilmu Pendidikan atau IKIP Surabaya, menjadi lembaga yang ditugaskan sebagai perguruan tinggi pencetak tenaga pendidik. Seiring dengan perkembangan kebutuhan pendidikan dan laju zaman yang kian melesat, UNESA menjaga marwah itu dengan meneguhkan diri sebagai pusat pengembangan pendidikan, pelestarian seni tradisional, ilmu keolahragaan, dari kota terbaik di Indonesia, kota dengan catatan sejarah perjuangan dan nuansa kepahlawanan. Selamat datang di Universitas Negeri Surabaya. Lahir tahun 1964 sebagai Institut Keguruan Ilmu Pendidikan atau IKIP Surabaya, menjadi lembaga yang ditugaskan sebagai perguruan tinggi pencetak tenaga pendidik. Seiring dengan perkembangan kebutuhan pendidikan dan laju zaman yang kian melesat, UNESA menjaga marwah itu dengan meneguhkan diri sebagai pusat pengembangan pendidikan, pelestarian seni tradisional, ilmu keolahragaan, serta ramah disabilitas. Terus bertumbuh menjadi perguruan tinggi terkemuka, UNESA kini mengelola 7 fakultas yang terdiri dari 73 program studi S1 dan D4 serta 23 program studi pasca sarjana. Fakultas Ilmu Keolahragaan, Fakultas Bahasa dan Seni, Fakultas Ilmu Pendidikan, Fakultas Ilmu Sosial dan Hukum, Fakultas Ekonomi, Fakultas Matematika dan Ilmu Pengetahuan Alam, Fakultas Teknik, Program Pasca Sarjana. Memiliki 2 klaster keilmuan, program studi berbasis kependidikan dan non-kependidikan, UNESA senantiasa meningkatkan kualitas penyelenggaraan pendidikan, memupuk tradisi ilmiah dalam penelitian, menggelorakan semangat pengabdian pada masyarakat, berjejaring berkolaborasi dengan pemangku kepentingan, serta mewujudkan pelayanan yang prima, transparan, dan akuntabel.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat datang di Universitas Negeri Surabaya. Di usia ke-56 tahun ini, kami dengan bangganya mengajak Anda untuk lebih dekat dan mengenal tentang UNESA. Kami terus berkomitmen tidak hanya menyelenggarakan pendidikan terbaik bagi tenaga pendidik profesional masa depan, juga sangat berfokus untuk menciptakan lulusan yang berkarakter, tangguh, kreatif, inovatif, dan mampu berkolaborasi pada siapapun, berbudaya yang humanis dengan spesifikasi yang unggul dalam hal seni, olahraga, dan pendidikan disabilitas yang komprehensif.
Pendidikan tak hanya menjadi intisari keberadaan, tetapi juga menjadi nafas perjuangan. UNESA menjadi salah satu kampus penyelenggara program pendidikan profesi guru yang menghasilkan tenaga pendidik profesional. UNESA terus menyelenggarakan berbagai program pemberdayaan sebagai stimulus untuk mengembangkan sumber daya dosen dan mahasiswa. Pengembangan riset serta produk-produk inovatif menjadi solusi atas permasalahan yang ada pada masyarakat. UNESA, rumah para juara. Ekosistem yang mendukung dalam mencetak sumber daya manusia berkualitas, kompetitif, dan berwawasan global sehingga mampu bersaing di tingkat nasional maupun internasional. Kolaborasi adalah kunci kemajuan dalam upaya menjadi kampus berdaya saing global. UNESA berkolaborasi dengan sejumlah institusi berskala internasional, baik di bidang industri, pemerintahan, maupun institusi pendidikan. Naik kelas dengan kelengkapan fasilitas. Sebagai wadah dalam mengembangkan minat, bakat, serta potensi mahasiswa, UNESA juga terus mengembangkan sarana dan prasarana yang mampu menunjang kegiatan akademik maupun non-akademik. Futsal Internasional, Asrama Kontainer, Sport Center, Pusat Bahasa, Geraha UNESA, Student Activity Center, Jogging Track, Lapangan Berkuda, Gor Basket Internasional, Unit Kegiatan Mahasiswa, Seni, Pengembangan karakter dan kepribadian, olahraga. Aktivitas outdoor.
UNESA, 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 UNESA,
UNESA.
UNESA, satu langkah di depan.
dari kota terbaik di Indonesia. Kota dengan catatan sejarah perjuangan dan nuansa kepahlawanan. Selamat datang di Universitas Negeri Surabaya. Lahir tahun 1964 sebagai Institut Keguruan Ilmu Pendidikan atau IKIP Surabaya, menjadi lembaga yang ditugaskan sebagai perguruan tinggi pencetak tenaga pendidik. Seiring dengan perkembangan kebutuhan pendidikan dan laju zaman yang kian melesat, UNESA menjaga marwah itu dengan meneguhkan diri sebagai pusat pengembangan pendidikan, pelestarian seni tradisional, ilmu keolahragaan, serta ramah disabilitas. Terus bertumbuh menjadi perguruan tinggi terkemuka, UNESA kini mengelola 7 fakultas yang terdiri dari 73 program studi S1 dan D4 serta 23 program studi pasca sarjana. Fakultas Ilmu Keolahragaan, Fakultas Bahasa dan Seni, Fakultas Ilmu Pendidikan, Fakultas Ilmu Sosial dan Hukum, Fakultas Ekonomi, Fakultas Matematika dan Ilmu Pengetahuan Alam, Fakultas Teknik, Program Pasca Sarjana. Memiliki 2 klaster keilmuan, program studi berbasis kependidikan dan non-kependidikan, UNESA senantiasa meningkatkan kualitas penyelenggaraan pendidikan, memupuk tradisi ilmiah dalam penelitian, menggelorakan semangat pengabdian pada masyarakat, berjejaring berkolaborasi dengan pemangku kepentingan, serta mewujudkan pelayanan yang prima, transparan, dan akuntabel.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat datang di Universitas Negeri Surabaya. Di usia ke-56 tahun ini, kami dengan bangganya mengajak Anda untuk lebih dekat dan mengenal tentang UNESA. Kami terus berkomitmen tidak hanya menyelenggarakan pendidikan terbaik bagi tenaga pendidik profesional masa depan, juga sangat berfokus untuk menciptakan lulusan yang berkarakter, tangguh, kreatif, inovatif, dan mampu berkolaborasi pada siapapun, berbudaya yang humanis dengan spesifikasi yang unggul dalam hal seni, olahraga, dan pendidikan disabilitas yang komprehensif.
Pendidikan tak hanya menjadi intisari keberadaan, tetapi juga menjadi nafas
Hello, Ifoda. Can you hear my voice? Ivoda?
Yes, now I can hear. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're already the co-host now. Darpan, can we start the program, please?
Okay, start now.
Yes.
Okay. Distinguished Mrs. Evoda Abdulrazakova, Strategic Partnerships and Development Finance Advisor of the United Nations. Dr. Ari Wahyudi, Vice Dean, Social Science and Law Faculty, Universitas Negeri Surabaya. Dr. Danang Pandiono Manu, Head of the Communication Science Department. And most importantly, all participants. A very good morning and welcome to today's general lecture held by Communication Science Department, Universitas Negeri Surabaya. Today, we are grateful for we can gather again virtually to discuss the role of academia to advocate for green growth as one of strategies to achieve sustainable development goals with our distinguished keynote speaker. Firstly, I would like to introduce myself. I am Dian Eka, as today's Master of Ceremony for lecture. And our today's agenda would be opening, listen to Indonesian National Anthem, remarks Dr. Danang Pandiono Manu, Head of the Communication Science Department, Universitas Negeri Surabaya, opening remarks Dr. Ari Wahyudi, Vice Dean Social Science and Law Faculty, Universitas Negeri Surabaya, main agenda, general lecture by Mrs. Ivoda Abdulrazakova, Strategic Partnerships and Development Finance Advisor of the United Nations. The lecture will be moderated by Ms. Suraya. Closing. Distinguished keynote speaker and all of the participants, moving to the next agenda, we will listen to the national anthem of Indonesia. Now we come to the second agenda. I will invite the head of the Communication Science Department to deliver his remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Danang Pandiono Manu.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Distinguished keynote speaker, Mrs. Ivoda Abdulrazakova, Strategic Partnership and Development Finance Advisor, United Nations. Dr. Ari Wahyudi, Vice Dean for Academic Affairs, Faculty of Social Science and Law, lecturers from Communication Science Department, and all participants. Good morning. and good evening for Mrs. Abdul Razakova. I'm truly honored to host the second series of International General Lecture today and would like to welcome you all at UNESA. Communication Science Department has started to increase students' awareness towards global issues and encourage everyone to contribute in solving them. For your information, the first series of International General Lecture discussed tolerance and immigrant protection in Afghanistan. The lecture was delivered by His Excellent Ambassador of Indonesia in Kabul, Afghanistan. Distinguished speaker and all participants, today Mrs. Abdul Razakova will share university's contribution in sustaining the environment. The lecture obviously matches one of our minors in Communication Science Department, that is Communication and Development, which offers students options to study gender and environment, politics, and public health. Most importantly, students could share their thoughts in resolving environmental issues. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to extend my gratitude to Mrs. Ivoda Abdul Razakova, who is willing to share her best practices and thoughts with the students. I'm convinced that your presence here will inspire all participants to contribute more on sustaining our environment. I also wish that our first virtual encounter will not be the last, as it brings an opportunity to collaborate with your institution. Many thanks to the organizing committee members who have worked hard to prepare today's program, and I'm sure this experience will benefit you all in organizing a similar event in the future. My sincere gratitude to Vice Dean for Academic Affairs who will open the lecture officially. The lecture may enrich students from Faculty of Social Science and Law, particularly understanding global issues. Finally, I wish you all have a fruitful lecture and discussion during the program. Thank you for your kind attention. Good morning. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Danang Pandiono Manu, for the remarks. The third agenda is opening remarks from the Vice Dean of Faculty of Social Science and Law, Universitas Negeri Surabaya. For this occasion, I invite Dr. Ari Wahyudi to deliver his opening remarks as well as officially open today's general lecture.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
The Honorable, the visiting lecturer, Ms. Ivoda Abdul Razakova, the Honorable Lecturer of Communication Science, Faculty of Social Science, Universitas Negeri Surabaya, and all the participants in today's general lecture via Zoom. Thank you for your coming today. First of all, praise be to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for letting us meet on the special moment. Secondly, I would like to say thank you to the community of the general lecture who have been working hard to prepare the activity. The lecturer topic is about achieving sustainability development and the role of academic to advocate for green growth. The general lecturer I am to discuss about the step in advocating the green growth, the actual role of academic, especially college students in promoting and working on sustainability development program. Or do you engage the community, any particular community approach you are employing? Or how does the program impact the decision making, or does the program affect certain public policy in special region? We have the expert that discuss this matter, that is Ms. Ifoda Abdurrazakova. She is from Strategy, Partnership and Development Financial Advisor, United Nations. Would do hope that this not only about general election, but the beginning of the next collaboration of the two institutions, two personnel, two departments. For example, lecture exchange, joint research, as under by the committee and the general lecturer to discuss about the role of academic to advocate for green growth is officially opened. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ari Wahyudi, for the remarks. Distinguished keynote speaker and all of the participants, we finally come to the main agenda today. This time, I would like to invite Ms. Suraya to lead the discussion. Ms. Suraya, this time is yours.
Thank you, dear. Very warm welcome to all participants. I hope you are all doing well. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Suraya from Communication Department. Currently serve as the moderator for today's general lecture. Before we start the lecture, I'd like to read some of the short biography from our keynote speaker today, Mrs. Ifoda Abdurrazakova. Hello. Hi there, Ifoda. Good evening. Mrs. Ifoda Abdurrazakova is a strategic partnership and development finance advisor in United Nations. She has worked on a number of assignments with DCO, Regional Office for Europe, the IIS in Istanbul and Arab states, based in Amman, where she worked on setting up a new regional office and substantive policy issues on the 2030 agenda, including partnership with international financial institutions and providing client service to UN offices around COVID-19 responses. In New York, she handled policy matters and leadership development for senior decision makers. Her experience spans working in an interagency environment from UNDP, UN Women, and UN Secretariat on Partnerships, Innovation and Development Policy. Her roots in the United Nations started with the UN office in Uzbekistan, where she originally comes from, and where she led the first national youth network and advocated for youth empowerment through communication efforts and at the national level. So her educational background, she obtained her master's degree in development economics from Ohio University, where I met her, and Master of Public Administration from Harvard Kennedy School of Government. So, Ifoda, I'd like to invite you to share your best practice on the theme today. So you have currently about 40 minutes for your presentation, and we will follow your presentation with the discussion, the Q&A session. So please, Ifoda.
Thank you so much, Ms. Suraya.
I cannot hear your voice clearly.
Can you hear me well now?
Yeah, it's very, I think, can you speak louder or probably, yep, sure.
Okay.
Probably it's best whenever you don't wear your headset, so it doesn't have an echo sound or any kind of feedback.
Do you hear echo sound?
Yeah.
Let's try once more. Apologies. The technology always.
Can you hear it better this way?
I can hear you, but still, it's very I think it's very far away sound and voice. If you can speak louder or if you can make it closer to your headset or your speaker, probably it will help.
How about now?
Cool. That's better. Much better.
Okay, I will try. And now with the echo, you don't hear, right?
No, I don't hear it.
Okay. Thank you so much. First of all, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
Waalaikumsalam.
To all participants, and thank you so much for introductions and keynote speeches, Dr. Tandinian Manu and Dr. Wahidi and Mr. Raya. Thank you so much for inviting me for this event. I'm very glad to see all of you, 200 participants from the university. And in the first introduction, a few minutes, the video that you played at the beginning, it was also an eye-opening for me. Because walking in, I wasn't really, didn't know exactly what kind of university or the audience I'm talking about. So I would like to thank you for that video at the beginning of the session. With that, I'm very glad to have this conversation with you today on the subject of sustainable development. It is a very interesting topic, but at the same time, the role of academia is close to my field as well. My first job, the first few years when I started in Uzbekistan, was at the University of World Economy and Diplomacy, which I forgot to mention since it was a long time ago. So that I'm very close to academia as well, myself, and with high regards. Had a few moments and reflections and best practices or maybe good practices that I would be happy to share with you. With that, let me share my presentation with you. So today we're going to talk about achieving sustainable development, the role of young people and academia to advocate and communicate for green growth. And what does it exactly mean? So let's look into the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Honestly speaking, it took me a few years to fully understand the core meaning of the 2030 Agenda.
I'm sorry, Ifoda, your presentation is not on yet.
Okay. I haven't used the presentation. Let me share my screen. Can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay, very good. So if you hear echo, let me know to try that. So we will try technology from our side. So the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Do you hear echo from my side?
Yes.
2034 Agenda for Sustainable Development has 17 goals. And as you have probably seen and heard, it was adopted in 2015 by all member states that subscribe part of the United Nations, including Indonesia. Prime ministers, they signed this agreement that we need to change the trajectory of economic development. The reasons becoming, if you look into the key aspects of economic development are, first is reducing poverty, education, providing proper health care, ensuring that everybody has a decent job. It was called before Millennium Development Goals, and it had a shorter number of targets, 8 goals, and it was easier to manage, but at the same time, there were many gaps left. So what is it different when we move to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development? In short, everybody calls it SDGs, is that we haven't taken into account the interconnectedness of the environmental issues.
the environmental, the fact that we produce a lot of plastic, we don't have a circular economy that regenerates a new type of production. Are we really paying attention to those left behind? Or is this becoming at the surface? So the SDGs in 2015 became more complex. Now it has 17 goals and it has 230 indicators, very, very heavy results framework, at the global level. But at the core of this framework lies three things. First, in the green box, you see a shift to economic transformation for sustainable development. What does it mean? If we focus on economic growth, it shouldn't be only about GDP. So the GDP is not a factor of human well-being. Some countries like Bhutan and others, they also measure happiness index, well-being index. Another factor is environmental aspects of it. Is the circular economy part of the economic development? Are we recycling or managing recycling enough? Are we transitioning and taking into account trade-offs of economic development? And this is the shift from a regular economic development thinking. Because if you look around the world, everybody, all countries, developed and developing emerging markets, we all have a circular economy. We produce a lot of waste. Are we managing that waste? Circular economy, when it says repackaging and taking care of the environment and issues. And as you have seen with the latest COVID pandemic, it also traces back, or potentially that's supposedly that traces back to how we are collapsing the environment, how we're putting ourselves into danger. So this is the shift that economic development shouldn't be alone. And another factor is here universality. These goals are planned before Millennium Development Goals, the MDGs. They were only for developing and emerging markets. But the SDGs 2030 agenda that we say, they have similar issues, they have poverty issues. Most of all, the environmental degradation is the biggest challenge. So that's why. And in the second yellow box, the gender equality. In the UN, we actually like a lot of acronyms, a lot of phrases that we come up as probably you are as part of the communication department. You're well aware, right? But at the same time, the meaning of these phrases are very deep. When we talk about leave no one behind, before we look at it, we want to make sure that we account for those people who might be left behind. Who are the people who usually we don't take into consideration? Are they migrants? Are they people who we have no say behind? Those issues need to be raised, and that's the focus and angle of this. The rights of those people marginalized. The third box that we can see is that sustainable the country the same way it's written the indicators. So you have to take that design and adjust it to the government decides what are the national priorities. So national priorities, development challenges needs to be aligned and it needs to fit into the country context. So that's the three core areas of the SDGs. When you hear about UN work, we look at it and we say, okay, what do we, in order to achieve sustainable development, what do we need to do? We have to look into the three principles. One is the shift to a different kind of economic development. Second is living on one with respecting the country's development priorities and adjusting those SDGs. So that's the first, the key element. I see the session afterwards, right? Good. So this, let's look into the three elements. When we say SDGs, the right way of talking about it, either to say 2030 agenda or say sustainable development. That's it. But the SDGs is a results framework. It's more harder to understand. So we are trying to achieve SDGs, but we're more trying to achieve sustainable development. And the three SDGs, when we talk about sustainable development goals, the 17 boxes, the colorful that you have seen, they are all interrelated. So you can't achieve gender equality without reducing inequalities in generation measures. So they're all interconnected with each other. So you can't be saying, I work on SDG 5. SDG 5 connects to many issues. Or you say, I only work on SDG 6. It connects again to many issues. The same way the SDG Development Program came up with an idea that let's talk about integration. So again, I'm saying as a communication students, we like to come up with phrases that integration is making sure that acknowledging those 17 goals, they're interrelated. If they're interrelated, how do we make sense out of it? Three ways. One is economic, social, and environmental integration. So that we can see economic issues separately. They're all interrelated. So how do we find the challenges? One example is people living in slums, right? It is also an environmental issue, it's a poverty issue, it's a social issue. Oh, let's give them people who are living in slums, dwellings, let's give them money and they will resolve the issue. No, it is a more complex beyond that. So that's one, acknowledging that complexity. The second is that we can see, that's why it's called Holophone agenda. I'm using all these jargonic words because you come from the communication department, and these are the lingua franca. We all, let's look into the 17 goals as a big goal, and let's make sure that we achieve all of them. And the second component on the second box is the whole of society. What does it mean, whole of society? Whole of society means, is this government's job to achieve sustainable? This whole of society, you as young people, you as from institution academia is part of that society. You play a role. Civil society plays a role, business plays a role, government. So the government is a facilitator, but it's not the only responsible party for achieving sustainable development, including individuals, including yourself, your own. If you keep using North America and Naturaya knows, we do recycling, we are very focused on which box goes to which box, but it's individual choice. But it's an individual responsibility to participate in that whole of society approach to achieve sustainable development. That's why we call it whole of society. The third element is that it's a bit jargonic, but let me try to explain. When the government is adopting a policy, it is not easy Department of Mathematics or Department of Engineering. That's development without connecting these dots. So we call them connecting dots. So what are the important the country level? Let's look at a few issues. The biggest trend and the biggest talk nowadays in the development policy world is the climate change. As you have heard, as you probably know, is that climate change is one of the biggest issues that everybody will be talking about. And also why we're talking about climate change, because the issues that we are facing, and there is in countries, like especially small island countries, they will face floods, they might even disappear. So this is the case, and it is hard to prevent. However, what the country or people can do is that to prepare, anticipate, learn from what works in one issue has been on the UN's agenda. How can we anticipate the challenges that will be coming in 10 years, in 20? If you are 20 years old now, what kind of world you will be living when you're 40? I think this is the time now to think what will happen in 20 years. And it connects also with environmental degradation. The other issues is the poverty, inequality, demographic change, country to country. In Asia Pacific, as far as I know, the majority of the country population is young people. Like I come from Uzbekistan, and 60% of our population now, the same is a young population. In Indonesia, most probably same, you have younger population. So a lot of the countries around the world, they have younger population. In Europe, you have aging issues. In Europe, they have aging issues. So it's a demographic issue. Inequality is a big topic. I cannot hear you.
Can you hear my voice? I cannot hear your voice now. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe ask participants to turn off their videos. Maybe that might be also.
Yeah. Because some of them told me through the chat box that they cannot hear your voice very well. So all participants, probably you can just turn off your video first, so that you will have a much clearer signal, so that you can hear her voice very clearly. Jadi para peserta nanti mohon nanti bisa videonya off saja supaya nanti suara dari Ivoda bisa terdengar jelas ya. Atau kalau misalnya memang berada di daerah yang mungkin sinyalnya di area yang sinyalnya masih kurang stabil, bisa berpindah dulu ke yang lebih stabil lagi atau yang lebih kuat sinyalnya. Terima kasih. Ivoda, please continue. Yeah. Yes, it's clear. There.
right now. So the inequality, the topic of inequality, it's very interrelated with poverty issues. Another growing subject areas in mega trends is the crisis and shocks like COVID-19, and for the past 9 months we have been going through that, and then technology and the rise of digital economy. These are the key mega trends. As a communication specialist, you will be interested to know on the development subject. So these are the, let me move to the next one. When we talk about leaving no one behind, we particularly emphasize this, women's empowerment. Are we empowering women enough to participate in society and economy? The second is disability inclusion. Are we empowering more people with different challenges that can join workforce, can join education? And I have seen from your university video that you have very good programs in that. And last one is the youth empowerment. The more young people are involved in society, community engagement for advocating and communicating on sustainable development, this is what we need to know. And also we need to understand, are they being left behind? Do they have enough opportunities for jobs? Do they have enough opportunities for education, for social mobility? Those are the three aspects of leaving no one behind. So as I mentioned earlier, economic growth alone cannot overcome legal, policy, and institutional barriers that led to discrimination and marginalization of certain groups. So the economic growth or GDP indicators are not the only indicators of the country's prosperity. So that's the what behind of the 2030 agenda. And one of the important pathways to sustainable development, this is my longest slide with a lot of text, but I would mention that, as you have seen from the COVID-19 pandemic situation, the issue of social protection became very, very important. We all realize there are gaps, there are challenges of how people are being socially protected and how they have access to addressing their resilience and how they can gain access to equity. Equity, it's a very different word from equality, because equity takes into consideration that all people have different needs. Some need access to more education. Some people need more support than others. And that's the focus of many development partners that work on sustainable development. And the most important, one of the key aspects of sustainable development is that in order to achieve whole of society approach and ensure strong and accountable institutions, we need to develop effective multi-stakeholder partnerships. That's another jargonic word, but let me explain the meaning behind the multi-stakeholder partnership. Is that one stakeholder is academia, another stakeholder is business, another stakeholder is government, another stakeholder is citizens. So that nexus of academia, business, government, and citizens is called multi-stakeholder partnership to advance sustainable development, because the challenges of sustainable development are so complex that one party, one stakeholder cannot achieve it. And this is what the UN has been focusing since 2015, and gradually there is more talk about multi-stakeholder partnership right now. And there is a lot of interest from the United Nations to work with academia. But when it comes to rubber hitting the road, that's where the questions start. How and in what ways we support each other? How do we help academia? How academia helps the government or the UN? Usually UN is a facilitator, is a broker. We support national governments. And if the UN can broker that, building multi-stakeholder partnerships, which I'm currently working on as well, is that how can we tap into the potential of academia, potential of young people to advance the sustainable development agenda? As there are a few examples, I want to mention some of them. For example, UNDP has an accelerator lab network. They have launched around the world in 130 countries or something, and they are focusing on redesigning new innovative products, solutions for development challenges with the help of young people. Young people, where are the young people? They're usually in academia. Can academia be as a partner for learning and innovation on development solutions? Second is the one has been for a long time is UN Population Fund's youth program. They also engage young people. And third one is the UN Volunteers. The UN Volunteers organization is engaging a lot of young people online, offline, deployment, short-term missions to work on youth-related issues. These are some of the examples that could be useful to network and to connect with academia. But this is just the beginning. If you see academia your institution has a huge potential, and you have a lot of resources to connect and be the hub for innovation with young people. And another example is the SDG Action Campaign. It's a global platform of raising voices and representing your country on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. It's a part of that global campaigning where young people can participate. You can showcase your own projects. You can be part of that. And what is the benefit of it? To get started with advocating and communicating on sustainable development, first thing, it's good that you know your cause. For me, a couple of years ago, we worked on this project called the SDG Primer on the foundational 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. In order to communicate, you need to know exactly what is sustainable development, and not only what are these key aspects we are trying to say and we're trying to advocate. Because when it comes to green growth, it's good, but it's also costly. The green growth comes with a lot of expenses. We're talking about solar panels. We're talking about renewable energy. We're talking about circular economy, recycling, waste management. We're building that economy that is green. Let's build the green growth, but it comes costly. So how do the governments, they make the trade-offs? And how they make a decision, but it's a long-term investment. If this is a long-term investment, as communication field, we have to be able to communicate it in a right way by understanding its challenges and opportunities. So that's why my first recommendation is know your cause. This is some of the links that I'm sharing with you here today. One is the SDG Academy, is a free open educational resources from leading institutions on sustainable development. Second is the one produced by the UN, is the foundational primer. It's very useful and helpful to know them. Second is lead your community. I wanted to share my own example here. Very long time ago, when I was right after college, probably very long time ago, 15 probably years ago. If you see in the middle, it's me. We was a group of students. We did a youth network for MDGs. At that time, we had an MDG youth network. We came up with a briefing kit, practical guide for students. It was all done on a volunteer basis. It was started from an idea at the university when we gathered with 5-10 students saying, what can we do differently? How can we do things differently? Is there anything that we come up with ideas are together and we actually go and offer our solution? What we did is that I took that offer with a group of students to the United Nations. I said that we would like to run this youth network. We went with this proposal to the government. We said, can we run this youth network? Because the government also needs to support this youth network. We went to the business. We said, can you guys support us and help us to establish this youth network? And the youth network was purely based on a volunteer, and it helped us to, everyone who participated in the community, they had a different meaning to their participation. It was one of the moments, and is the second, until today, I have my second youth network. It's a Girls for Girls youth network, the global network that we established again at the university that I went to do my master's. And it's all the power. What I want to say is that your community engagement as a student, you have a huge potential, you have a huge power to create your own network. If you have an idea, we can help you where to sell it. We can help you how to connect it. As long as you have an idea, you have a space, you have a classroom, you have teachers, you have professors. You just have to create that incubation and accelerator that help for ideas. And a lot of organizations, including the UN, are looking for young people with great ideas. That's what I wanted to mention. And the last one is, as a communication the specialist, and without being even a communication, the topic of sustainable development is very heavy. It talks about when you dig down, I'm still digging down to better understand. It has a scientific language behind it. But can we turn that scientific language into community language that everybody understands? And creating compelling advocacy messages for sustainable development. Maybe we don't advocate because we don't know exactly, as I mentioned, the opportunities and challenges of green growth. Because it comes costly, it's a long term, it doesn't have that immediate effect, it's not easy. But if we focus on human stories, if we focus on nail down to real people, on how they're living, with the innovative ways of communicating about it, using design thinking, data journalism, look out for new ways of speaking about human stories. That we gain more conviction, more buy-in. As I mentioned, and as I mentioned earlier, if you have an idea, you also need to be able to communicate about it. And any idea related to sustainable development is not easy to convey. I know from my experience. So with this, I think this is my last slide. Thank you so much. And I'm happy to continue my conversation with question and answer part of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. It is very comprehensive. I'd like okay. Okay, I'll start with this. Can you hear my voice, Ifoda?
Yes.
Q&A session. I'd like to repeat your main points to the participants. Oh, it's being delayed. It's not clear enough, probably. Is it the signal? No?
It's very slow. I'm trying.
Oh, okay. Is it clear now? No?
Not yet, ma'am.
Can you hear my voice?
There is delay.
Yes, I can hear, but it's not clear.
Okay, it's not clear. Okay,
I can
cool.
hear.
It's probably the network, yeah. Okay, so I'd like to only mention like the main points of what Verda has said. So, okay, yeah. So first one is reaching the unreached, and the goals will cause that so many expense and the transformation of youth. No, okay, I'd like to open up the queue and we're going to
Maybe we should turn off video.
no.
Yes. Maybe maybe they can chat.
clearly. Hello?
Yes.
Okay, I will start to ask now. Maybe I have to open my camera or stay off.
Yes.
Open my camera. Okay. Okay. Good morning, all. Now, thanks to the moderator for the occasion. Before moving ahead, I want to say hello to the distinguished speaker. Then, before deliver my question, I want to tell something to you that I'm also active in an NGO that promotes SDGs Indonesia too. The name of NGO is HHI Indonesia, which is centered in Delhi, India, and has just been established in Indonesia since last June. And incidentally, those who built in Indonesia are also me and some of my friends that we know each other in a youth forum some times ago. And currently, the NGO has been there in many branches in many countries in the world. And now HHA has officially become part of UNMGCY. I don't know how to read that. If I'm wrong, so please. You can search in Google what is UNMGCY, guys, and I'm telling this here. Maybe there are some of you are interested to being able to join us in HHI Indonesia to improve and being ambassador of SDGs in Indonesia. So my question is, how to support green growth in the midst of higher economic interest, whereas usually natural control takes a longer process and costs more. It's what I hear all this time, of course. And green growth not only about nature, but I think this is a big changes how the economy and business are going. So I think it's not easy to apply it in Indonesia. In Indonesia itself, the government seems to be more concerned with running the economy than preserving nature. The reason is that economic growth is fast with rapid mobilization, with its infrastructure that is destroying nature and so on. But I see right now the world is just protesting without any significant insistence on the reduction. On the reduction of this land called the lungs of the world. So, how to support this in this country? Probably more significant for this country. That's my question.
Thank you, Naha, for your question. Ifoda, would you like to raise a voice? No? You cannot hear my voice in the chat box, okay?
Can you hear me? I can try to answer Naha's question very quickly. The country's development depends and designed by the national government, right? You have a national development priorities, national development strategic plans, and usually me being at the global level will be very hard to respond to your question. However, what I would suggest is, I was telling Turaya, I can connect you with colleagues with UN offices in Indonesia, particularly have a more in-depth discussion on what does it mean green growth for Indonesia, because they are more well aware at the country level, and they have been doing reports, they have been doing forums, and I know Indonesia is far advanced in this area than other countries. And when it comes to green growth, it's a gradual process, and things that I have seen from good practices is, let me give you a simple example. The use of plastic bags in the shops. When you go for shopping, in New York, we would get a lot of plastic bags. So I would bring 15 of plastic bags or 10 plastic bags, because what they do is that they also wrap the one plastic bag into another one, right? So you don't get one plastic bag, you get 3 of them. Because if you're carrying heavy, now first what they did is that it was a slow, gradual implementation of, if you go to the store, you will get charged to get the bag. So it's a 0 cents. Like, let's say it's a 5 cents, you have to pay for the bag. But you get a not plastic bag, you get a paper bag. So you get a paper bag now, you pay 5 cents, and as a consumer, when you're paying 5 cents, for the first time you say, it's okay, it's a 5 cents. For the first time, I'm all right. But second time, when you're getting 10 bags paper, it's already 50 cents. And if this happens all the time, you accumulate at least $30, $50, which you think, why would I pay so much for the bag? So they are promoting a behavior where you don't pay for the even paper bag, but they get charged. But what will happen is that you go with your cotton material bag to the store, and you don't pay for the bag to get. So it's the whole concept of behavioral shift. It takes time. It takes many, many years, and the way how developed northern countries came to this area, it's very slow. And I know in Asia Pacific, especially Indonesia, you guys are more advanced. So these things will come also very slowly. It takes time. So that's what I would say. But if you keep the horizon long term, it will be much easier as a policymakers, as students, you can offer such ideas to them. That's one of the good practices.
Thank you so much for that. Now, okay. Somebody is texting me privately to ask questions.
Thank you for the answer. Sure.
Yep. If you see
the question, yes, Mahfarat, Yunus, how Indonesia could apply the green growth economy, even had a different culture than in other countries like Europe. Being Muslim myself, I can relate, like, for example, in Indonesia, we have, I think, much more cultural habits for keeping things clean, keeping the rivers clean, and being certain the cultural behaviors that would be probably maybe easier for us to do green growth. What I mean with that, The cultural aspects play a role, but in generally what they found out is that if you have seen the book on behavioral economics, I would suggest you also to check out some of the resources on behavioral economics. Rational human behaviors are quite similar across the world. And when it comes to, for your culture, it would need to come from you. It needs to come with ideas. How could it be applied? Like if the example that I gave you on the plastic bags and charging for the bags, I'm pretty sure it would also work in Indonesia. People will not pay for the bag for paper bag, and they will next time they will come with 10 cloth bags and say, I'm not paying for the bag. So it's a very human nature that we are more inclined to spend less if we get charged. Also, the green grass economy, look at the tolls. I don't know if in Indonesia you have tolls. When you drive a car, you pay for the environmental pollution, right? What if the environmental pollution, I will tell you two aspects. One is environmental pollution was automatic. So you go through it and you don't know how you are being charged. So first time, 1 year, you're charged $10. The next year, you're charged $11, but you don't know that you're being charged $11 because it's automatically taking the money from your bank. It's good for the government because it's increasing the revenue, but it's not good for the people because you don't know that you're being charged. And in that case, this is one of the example is if you create taxes on environmental pollution issues, it also prevents people from polluting a lot, right? This is not about people, but also the corporations. A lot of companies and corporations, they do waste challenges, the pollution issues. We tax them more? Can they pay more? Maybe that will prevent them to pollute less. So these are the aspects that would, I think, work also in other countries as well. So the next question is, through what channels can the voice of youth be heard by the UN easily? This is important for us to ask because sometimes the country itself doesn't hear our voices. So we need outside support to urge the government to pay more attention to natural conditions, such as the case of Papuan customary land, which is only bought cheap by entrepreneurs to be turned into oil palm land. This is a very important question, and you are talking about being active citizens. When it comes to the national issues, for me it will be hard for you to customize my response for Indonesia. But what I would do, what channels you can be heard by the UN. If you have seen UN 75 conversations, this is a global campaign, UN 75. You can Google UN 75 online channel. That's where they're collecting voices of young people. To know what the issues are, what the challenges are, they aggregate the responses and they say, this is how many of people from Indonesia participated. And these are the issues that they're raising. This is a global crowdsourcing, collective intelligence exercise. And based on that, they write the reports to the government saying, these are the issues that are coming out from Indonesia. It's very important that you raise these issues, and I agree, and participate in those conversations. That's one. And next question is, in your opinion, how we as college students can build an awareness about green growth in Indonesia, with the fact that people in Indonesia has trust issues to new information? Slowly, step by step. Building awareness, it starts with, as I mentioned, know your cause. Do you also know what does it mean green growth? Have you learned what needs to be done in Indonesia? Have you checked all the facts? Have you found out from the government sources, from the international sources, from the institutions, and create your own network? create your own network, advocacy, blogging. It starts step by step, but I think the use of social media and digital tools became a good platform for raising awareness about the green growth. And as we talked earlier, is also connecting with institutions such as the UN, also in Indonesia, to work on these ideas. If you, as a group of students from this chat, if you come up an idea, 10 of you, maximum 10 of you come up with an idea of these are the ways we want to do green growth, or we just want to create awareness among young people for green growth, I think there will be organizations, including the UN, who will be interested in supporting you. Come up with innovative ideas, use of social media, use of digital tools. Because that's how you start. You have an idea and change the world. That would be one important aspect. Have an idea.
Okay, I'm trying to be online in a different gadget. Can you hear my voice now?
Yeah, this is good.
Yeah. Okay. So Ifoda, thank you so much for the response. Actually, this is also my question. Whenever you started discussing the topic, I know this is going to be more costly whenever it comes to sustainable environment, but it is all worth it. And my question is that, is there any kind of support, including not only in capacity building, but also in terms of fund for those developing countries, especially whenever they have a lot of high rate of pollution and everything. So in order to support them to build or try to initiate the sustainable development environment. So is there any certain budget or certain allocation from United Nations or even like other international donors for that?
Yes, very good question. There are many resources being made available by United Nations and also other development institutions around the world on green growth, climate change, and water issues, anything related to circular economy, because it's understandably, it's the area that is costly, and one government cannot be able to solve it. It requires also resources from private sector, resources from international organizations. So there are a lot of, for example, the Green Environmental Facility, it's called GEF, and Green Financing Facility. But most of these institutions, they provide funding opportunities to governments directly, or established international NGOs. I'm not really aware if they provide support for academia, but we can check. But mostly this funding is targeted to civil society and international NGOs and national NGOs, organizations, and the governments. Yes, that's the one area that is growing very fast right now.
Thank you, Ifoda, for the response. I have this question directed to you privately in the chat box. So if you can summarize what can students do, particularly not in terms only for sustaining our environment, but for other SDGs, what can be the top priority that the students can contribute like more actively in terms of environment, gender, women empowerment, as well as we are trying to reach people with different abilities as well?
There are a lot of things that you can do. There are many things that you can do as a student, especially when you have a ground for innovation, as I mentioned. as a students from one department or from one area of subject, can you reach out for other students from other departments with different skill sets? One, why is that? Can you build a team? Can you get an engineer, technology, social media savvy, communication, and people, and then experts together and build a team to launch your own ideas, as I mentioned, the incubation process. Can you create the innovation lab process? Can you initiate that? Can you invite the partners? Can you invite the development organizations who are working in Indonesia saying, we would like you to come to our university? We would like you to hear our ideas on how we are solving these challenges. Can you run a competition? I think when it comes to what can I do as a student, there are many avenues that you can take. Many avenues, and knowing when you come up with an idea, as you, for example, we've been in touch with Soraya. If I'm happy to connect you with other institutions, development institutions in Indonesia on women's empowerment. If you have ideas on women's empowerment and innovation with apps, with technology or communication or advocacy, that's what you can do. The basic thing is that community service. It starts with the community service. You start a community service, but you also build a network through that. You build your connections, you help the society, and you also help your team and peers. That's what I would summarize it. It's one sentence, it's all in your hands. Inspire and be inspired.
Thank you for the response. I hope the one who sent me a question, a private question, he inspired with your response and start act directly. And I'd like, we still have 9 minutes before 10:30. I have these questions from participants, but they will be in Bahasa Indonesia, so I will interpret it to you. So please, those who want to raise question in Bahasa, you may type it in the chat, or you can just raise your hand so that the committee members could unmute you and you can start stating your question. Silakan bagi teman-teman peserta yang kemudian ingin bertanya dalam bahasa Indonesia, nanti saya akan terjemahkan ke dalam bahasa Inggris dan saya sampaikan ke Ifoda. Kita masih punya sekitar waktu 8 menit. Ada tadi ya yang di private ya. Silakan. Atau mau diketik? Do you want to do it live or do you want to type it? Tidak apa-apa, live saja. Nanti saya terjemahkan, Dian. Live saja, Dian. Nanti saya akan terjemahkan. Tidak perlu diketik, jadi supaya tidak tidak terlalu lama waktunya. Oke. Diketik saja kan? Oke, diketik. You want to type it? Dian, boleh diberitahu aja kata kuncinya saja. Nanti saya bantu. Karena ini sedang diketik. Kata kuncinya saja nanti saya bantu untuk meramu pertanyaannya. Bertanya tentang, diketik saja enggak apa-apa. Apa? Yeah. So while while we are waiting for the others to type the question, yeah, it's delayed again. Is it delayed? Is it delayed? Okay. So while we are waiting for the others to type the question, I'd like to invite it's delayed again. I cannot hear my question. Uh, is it? Can you hear my voice clearly? No. Is it clear, Ivoda? Is it clear?
Yeah.
Ini yang nggak dengar. Okay. Sometimes technology can bring everything easy, but sometimes the other thing it can be.
I can hear you.
Hindered. Oh, you can hear me? Okay. Okay, so here is the question in Bahasa. I will try to interpret it for you. What will you be doing whenever you want to implement? Okay, so here's the question. What will you be doing if you want to implement green growth technology or green growth if you were a student currently? What will you be doing? So Oda, can you hear my voice? So the question is, yeah, I can hear you now. The question is from the student is that if you are a student now, you yourself is a student, what will you be doing to implement the green? Wah, saya nggak dengar, dua-duanya nggak bisa. Can you hear me, Ivoda? Yes. You get the question? Yeah. I cannot hear your voice clearly. The thing is that I cannot hear your voice clearly. I got these two gadgets, but it doesn't help.
Of the organizing committee, I apologize for any inconvenience.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening, Ifoda. Thank you. We'll be in touch. Thank you. Terima kasih banyak semuanya. Terima kasih. Sorry.
you.